opening round for the women. It'll be Molly Picklum, Stephanie Gilmore, and Gabrielle O'Brien kicking things off. It goes by quickly, post-cut. We'll get to the final series before we know it. As you see the fans here locally at Saquarema showing up to see this first heat of the morning. Joe Turpel, Jesse Mendez, and Mitchell Salazar here for the Dawn Patrol show this morning. Mitchell brought it up this morning as well as yesterday and the day before. Carissa Moore stand out in the free surfs. As we get right into the wrist story, can she repeat her success here at Saquarema from last season?
Well, she seems like the favorite to do so, and you look at the conditions, and it just brought out the best in her surfing. She's averaging a third-place finish at this event in her history, which is just incredible. You'd have to be thinking it's one of the most dominant performances in history. But when it comes to this spot specifically, I just think it adds to her style. You have that power of the ocean here that really presents itself like it would in the Hawaiian Islands. I think she goes back-to-back here, Joe.
In a different kind of role this year, Jesse. Last year, her win here in Brazil was her first of the season. This year, she's already picked up 3 CT victories.
That's crazy. Last year, she was almost like inconsistent for herself, and now you see Carissa being back to normal status. Like, she's just dominant in every condition. She's good in her backhand, good in her front side. She's good in barrels both ways, so it's like she's the one to beat pretty much every event.
Let's break it all down by the numbers. Carissa Moore, a 5-time world champ, but just focusing on her performances here in Brazil, it's been sensational. 10 previous starts, 4 finals, 2 wins. And look at that winning percentage, 83%, as she's dominated this venue with a lot of consistency. Interesting to note, she did call the event win last year one of the best of her career because she had a 1.8 combined total in the opening round. And as a champion does, she rose to the challenge and beat Joanne Defay in the final last year.
Yes, and that's what the best in the world are good at. They're just good at bouncing back and erasing what was left behind and just resetting and going big on the next heat.
Different type of energy, Mitchell, from Carissa Moore this year. She says sometimes her biggest challenge is her mind. I feel like she's as confident as it gets for Carissa Moore right now.
But look at those stats, though. She's won 20 out of 24 heats. Like, that's incredible. Who else does that? And there's a reason why she's the number 1 seed coming into this event. And you look at the back end of last year, there were 3 different champions for the last 3 events. I actually think she could win all 3 of them and get on a roll, and even better, that number 1 seed heading into lowers.
I mean, already with 3 event wins, and we have plenty of room to pick up more victories. She hasn't had a season like this since 2015. That's like 6 solid years on tour where she hasn't had at least 3 wins. She had 4 wins that season in 2015 and 1 of her world titles, but she's in that kind of form and rhythm coming into Saquarema as the defending event champ. And when you are that defending event champ, brings you a lot of confidence, especially when you're wearing yellow at the same time.
Yes, I think also because you just get so comfortable at a place. You had so many repetitions. You're just used to. You're just warmed up, even though the event haven't even started. It's just that extra confidence that just brings it into the game.
Mitchell, I want to get your take on what we have so far on the rankings as we are focusing on the final 5 positions for the women and really want to focus on what's standing out for you coming into stop number 8. Any surprises?
Well, we look at the bottom end of the draw. Caitlin Simmers, number 7. She already has an event win this season. Surprise at Lakey Peterson's number 8. Gabrielle O'Brien and Betty Lou. Good to see some new names in there. But how about the people that are tied for number 5 right now? Stephanie Gilmore and Tatiana Weston-Webb. That, to me, is the real battle within the battle right now. Joe, people are looking to qualify for lowers.
And then the stranglehold on the top of the rankings, Jesse.
Yes, like he said, I think there's only 1 or 2 spots to grab for the top 5. And Carissa and Tyler really having a step ahead of the game. They started so well the year that now they can almost like not relax, but they're ahead of the game. So it's like much easier for them to just go forward.
Pretty exciting now, as we know there could be some outside chances for a couple of those surfers to clinch a spot as early as Brazil for a spot in the Rip Curl WSL Finals. Also, Olympic qualification on the line, Mitch.
Yeah, a lot on the line, and obviously you got to be thinking about the most important thing, which is being a world champion at the end of the day, because if you end up in those top 5 spots, your chances of going to Paris 2024 are much higher. So I expect a lot of big performances from the people that are on the top 3. Tyler Wright, Carissa Moore, and especially from Molly Picklum if she wants to be in both conversations.
I love that you brought up Molly Picklum. Just this superstar representing Australia, part of that youthful movement on tour that experienced a ton of success from Pipeline and then to Sunset Beach, picking up a big win. Are you noticing her sliding down the rankings? Is that due to form, or is it just the intensity of the veterans on tour?
I think it's the intensity of the veterans. They're used to excelling throughout the back half because they're just performers. They're good under pressure, and she's just pretty much a rookie. This is her second year on tour, so she really needs to strap up and hold on because those bigger names are really going to start making damage.
Molly often compared to the young superstars on tour like Betty Lou, Sakura Johnson, Caitlin Simmers, but how does she separate herself from that pack, Mitch?
Oh, that's a good question. Maybe innovation. You know, she's brought a bit of innovation to, I think, a couple different breaks, and especially at Sunset Beach. There are few people that can really surf that wave at that young of an age that well, and especially to win over a veteran like Caroline Marks on her backhand, everybody thinking, okay, the backhand here is going to excel. Molly Picklum shut that down. She had a great Hawaii season, but since then she struggled to get good results. She could be doing it here. This is where she clinched her spot to requalify for the CT at the Challenger Series level, Joe.
And she had a couple of great waves in the warm-ups as well. Looking forward to seeing Molly Picklum in this first heat this morning. Before we get there, let's check out the men's top 10 picture. Coming into stop number 8, just Brazil, J-Bay, and Tahiti. Before we set up the Rip Curl WSL Finals, we've got Griffin Colapinto, one of your picks to potentially win this event, Jesse. Still wearing the yellow jersey at this stop.
Yeah, it's incredible. I know Griffin for so long, since he was a Grom, and he's talented. Is above average, but now he really put into the work of heat strategy and everything, and he's so mature, and that just reflects on the rankings, and he's looking good for being in the top 5.
Outside that final 5 picture at the moment, any names popping out to you, Mitchell, and who could maybe jump up there before we head to Jeffreys Bay?
Well, first of all, I think it's really important to note that it's cool to see Leo Fioravanti and Connor O'Leary in the mix, number 8 and number 10 respectively. But Italo Ferreira's been on a roll lately, 2nd at the Surf French, 5th in El Salvador. Those are the only quarterfinal finishes or better that he has in the year so far. So he's gaining momentum. He made the semifinals here last season. I do expect him to be at least in the conversation in the last 3 events. He's finaled at most of them, Joe.
The energy of Italo Ferreira, it feels like it's back. It felt like there was just a little bit of tough times for Italo, even though it's crazy to say that because he finished runner-up in the world last year. But it felt like he just wasn't happy with the scores he was getting at times. He was coming in with a little bit of frustration. I feel like his mojo's back. He's got some good energy coming into this part of the tour.
Man, we're all humans, and those guys are humans as well. So you expect them for having a peak and also going lower a little bit, and that's normal. But it seems like you said, he found the groove back again. He did very well at the ranch, which is a spot that he usually doesn't do well. And he's ready. Like I said, those guys that are world champs, they're really going to excel in these last few events. So guys like João and Ethan really need to strap up in order for them to be in the top 5.
Yeah, Ethan Ewing, all-star this year as well, picked up his best result at Bells, getting the win. But also, I think what surprised some people was the 3rd place finish at the Surf Ranch, his best to date.
Yeah, and he beat Medina in that quarterfinal too. And he's a very consistent surfer, and he's a very complete surfer. I could see him doing well in Tahiti as well. If it's big over there, I do expect him to at least make finals day of the quarters. But here at this event, this is really the moment where you need to keep that 3 seed at least. If you can move up a couple of spots, even better, Joe.
It's interesting when you look at this wave, all you think of is Filipe because he takes it over every year, and we know he's got a mix of power and a mix of airs. Can you pull off a victory here if you don't have an air game, Jesse?
I really think you can. Like Mitch was saying earlier, this is a very deep water spot, so it has a lot of power, and we have a lot of offshore in the forecast, so that's really going to be good for the rail game surfers. So yeah, I think you can definitely do it.
It's cool. Power never goes out of style. Ethan Ewing is going to make a lot of sense out of this place. His warm-ups look solid, and there was a little bit of traffic he's had to deal with. It gets pretty crowded in those warm-up surfs, but I saw a couple of waves that I scored at least an 8-point ride from Ewing, especially yesterday morning.
Yeah, he looks great, and I also think that actually benefits João Chianca too, the local boy. Yes, he has a good air game, but it's not great. It's not at the level of Medina or Italo or even Filipe. You need to rely on your basics and what you're very good at, and I think that's what Chianca's good at.
It's interesting when you look at João Chianca, and we mentioned with Molly Picklum, they're going through a very similar road this year of rising to the top of the rankings, wearing yellow, and still hanging in the mix of the final 5 picture. Chianca now will get the experience, once again, like a wild card last year, but with much more success this season, competing on his home court. We know the Brazilians are going to have some huge cheers when they paddle out, but Chianca might get the most.
Definitely. He's the home boy here. He has the home court advantage, and I think the biggest advantage of him here is just the backwash, dealing with the backwash. He knows so well, and it's just like the back of his hand. He knows how to do it.
It's inevitable. Dealing with backwash at Saquarema, you think of this venue and you know that's probably one of the biggest challenges you'll deal with when you compete, Mitch.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough factor for both the men and the women, but I expect everybody to be able to manage. We are talking about the very best in the world, Joe, so it should be a fun event.
As we see the Water Patrol getting set up with the Red Bull skis, things are getting really exciting as we prepare for the opening round, heat number 1. Molly Picklum, Stephanie Gilmore, and Gabrielle O'Brien are set to compete. Remember, 3 surfers in the water, where first place skips all the way to the quarterfinals. So those first heat wins in the opening round, incredibly important.
Definitely. And also after the cut, we already have stacked up heats no matter what. But after the cut, it gets tighter. The haul gets narrower, so second round, if you want to avoid that, it's very important.
You mentioned earlier that second round looks like some finals at times in surfing history. So prepare for the elimination round to be incredibly exciting. Looking forward to seeing who gets those first place positions in this first round, Mitch.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a great day of competition. We have fun waves out there, Joe. It's going to be great.
Exciting moment of the day. Now to perform the Brazilian national anthem, a finalist of The Voice in Brazil last year, one of Saquarema's own, Jussier Jr.
Local of Saquarema. Ouviram do Ipiranga as margens plácidas de povo heróico brado retumbante, e o sol da liberdade em raios fúlgidos brilhou no céu da pátria nesse instante. Se o penhor dessa igualdade conseguimos conquistar com braço forte. Em teu seio, ó liberdade, desafio nosso peito à própria morte. Ó pátria amada, idolatrada, salve, salve. Brasil, um sonho intenso, um raio vívido de amor e de esperança, a terra desce. Se em teu formoso céu risonho e límpido a imagem do cruzeiro resplandece, gigante pela própria natureza. És belo, és forte, impávido colosso, e o teu futuro espelha essa grandeza. Terra adorada, entre outras mil, és do Brasil, ó pátria amada. Dos filhos desse solo és mãe gentil, pátria amada Brasil.
Jussier Jr., local here at Saquarema. How beautiful. The national anthem here in Brazil to kick us off in the opening round of the Vivo Rio Pro presented by Corona. Joe Turpel, Jesse Mendez. And Jesse, I know you travel around the world competing, surfing, but you're home in Brazil. How sweet is that to open up the event with the national anthem?
Yeah, that's definitely special. I think everyone's stoked with that, and it was just peaceful. It sounded nice and just like a normal day at the beach, but with a special occasion that we have the tourist stop here, and we're going to see some fireworks.
You can see the fans trying to get the best position. They got here on dark just in case it was called on, and the ones that woke up earlier happy that they got their spot, put their umbrellas down, and be preparing to watch the opening heat of the event. There's the famous church. Jesse, have you ever walked up there to check out the view?
Plenty of times. I've been coming here since I was so young for just amateur events, and it's just such a special place. Yeah, I love this area. The sunset, it's one of the prettiest we have, and yeah, it's awesome to be here.
Oh, it's a really cool part. Remember, it's in the state of Rio de Janeiro, so if you watch the old events at Barra da Tijuca, that's closer to the main city, but now in this country town, making the move a handful of years back. But there's some CT events that happened here also in the late 90s.